Welcome to episode 13 of the MMTS podcast. My name is ISHAN. I'm here with my dad as always, and we're here to talk about my new song, My Mouth, La La La. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, and how's your mouth?
Nice, good one. I'm well. My mouth is perfectly fine. The vocal cords that sit a little bit behind it are pretty tight because I've just been in the studio for 3 weeks, making a whole bunch of tracks that I'm sure we'll talk about on this podcast at some stage in the future. But otherwise I'm pretty well.
Well, I can just cancel the last question that I had prepared for today around what you've been doing for the last 3 weeks, because you've already just spoken about that with the being in the studio.
I think this happens often enough that you need to come prepared with like 1.5 times the amount of questions that we have time for in a given episode, and then just as I kind of undermine them accidentally, you just cross them off, and that way we'll have, you'll actually get to ask the number of questions you plan to.
That's exactly what I do.
Is that what you do?
That's exactly what I do. Well done. Well done.
Hey,
let's
my
jump
world
in.
And you're all just living in it. Okay, let's go.
Let's jump in, ISHAN. Now, I'm going to set this up in the following way. I'd like this episode of MMTS to be a little bit different.
Ooh, here we go.
I hope that we can delve even further into your life as an artist and not just talk about the song, but also everything that's happened around the release of this song. Given that it represents a genuine inflection point in your career, or at least I think so anyway. Are you okay with this?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the last song we spoke about was An Impromptu Hug, which released back in November 2023.
Yeah.
Back then you had 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, 7,000 Instagram followers, and we are now in April 2024. My Mouth dropped a few weeks ago, and you have increased by a factor of at least 10 on all platforms: Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Very simple question. What happened?
First of all, shout out to Stats FM or wherever you got that data from. That was nice. It was very Moneyball of you. What happened? I guess in a nutshell, there was one video in particular on Instagram and TikTok that I posted of me busking. I was busking, live looping, playing the song in question, My Mouth, La La La. And I'd probably at this point posted 4 videos that were very similar, doing the exact same song. I probably posted 50 videos in a very similar format of just, I'm playing my song on the street, busking. It's, either you or another family member just holding an iPhone filming it. So super, super kind of raw footage. And the whole thing was just felt very ordinary to me. And then, I don't know, I guess a couple of hours after posting it, we started noticing, it just started going ballistic. I think it started on TikTok first. I think I tend to post them like an hour apart, just so I can have a look at one and have a look at the other. And I don't know the exact numbers, but like it went pretty nutso on TikTok, and then that was wild. And then it started going even more not so on Instagram. And I think on Instagram it ended up being like 8 million views on that one video or something. And up until that point, I'd probably had, 100,000 videos across all my, 100,000 views across all my videos, all time up to that point. So that was, obviously a massive step change, inflection point, as you put it. So I guess that's, if you have to sort of bring it down to one moment, it was probably that one.
And before you released this song, there was a lot of love for it on social media.
Yeah.
A lot of people were clamoring for it to come out. You get a great reaction when you play it live. What do you think it is about this song that appeals so broadly to folks?
Look, there's definitely an element I have no idea. It's so hard to tell with these things. I think all the songs I've released, they're special to me. I really enjoy them. I love playing them live. We mentioned An Impromptu Hug before. That's still my favorite one that I've released to date. And that's nothing against the other songs. It just, in my heart, that one just feels the most special. So it's always hard to tell, why certain things resonate with a wider group of people or why they don't. I guess if I had to post-rationalize it, I would say that My Mouth is a song about wanting to just go out into the world and be yourself and be authentic. And I imagine that, struggling with that thing of just letting yourself be as you are is a pretty universal theme.
So don't say nothing if you don't mean it. Just be quiet if you don't believe it.
In saying that, there are lots of songs that I have about other, whether it's relationships or, achieving dreams that are also very universal. So that doesn't really answer the question. So I'm saying that going, okay, my answer's flawed. I don't really have the true answer. But yeah, obviously, in the comment sections of a bunch of videos, people talking about how much they resonate with this idea of just trying to be themselves and wanting to be not necessarily more relaxed, but just more comfortable, not making up details about their life or not trying to make themselves appear extra in front of other people. So yeah, I don't have a perfect answer for you, but obviously that's an idea that's resonated.
You just provided me a suggestion earlier that I should come prepared with questions and then cross them out as you go. He's
learning.
So let me read out the question I have next and the notes I put next to it, and then you'll hopefully have a bit of a smile. I was about to ask you, is this the favourite song that you've written? And my interview notes were, tease out My Mouth versus Impromptu Hug.
Oh, I don't like the word versus. They're on the same team.
They are. But maybe I'll ask the question slightly differently. This song, by far and away, has been the most popular from the general public.
Yeah.
That doesn't always necessarily translate to your favourite, while Impromptu Hug was you've mentioned one of your favourites.
Yeah.
And yet hasn't done anywhere near the numbers of My Mouth. What goes into a song being your favourite?
Well, I mean, first of all, it changes often, and the vast majority of all the songs that I've ever written are not released. So, when I'm talking about my favorite, I mean, my favorite song that I've written ever probably changes once every month or once every 2 weeks because I'm always writing new ones and I have recency bias. But yeah, even just when it comes to thinking about the very small number of songs that I have released up to this point, I don't know. I guess it's just how they make me feel. It's not scientific, and I listen to an Impromptu Hug, and even though I wrote it, I don't know when I wrote it. Do you remember? Would it have been 23? Yep. It's probably been over a year since I wrote an Impromptu Hug, and it's been close to, if not 6 months since I released it, or not quite 6 months. So it's not quite as new or quite as fresh in my mind as My Mouth is, given it's just been released so recently. But yeah, it just still makes me feel very emotional.
Now, you said My Mouth.
Yep.
Now, that sort of tees up my next question. As
I
always,
have sinned.
You go through a little bit of iteration once your songs are written. And it wasn't always called My Mouth La La La. In fact, it's had 2 name changes. The first being influenced by a Harry Styles song. Can you remember what this was about?
I know what this is about, but I don't actually remember the original title. So, okay, you tell me in a second. What was it called? What was the first title?
I think it was something around silence or something. So you had the word silence in the title,
right?
Sometimes silence or. I can't remember, but it definitely wasn't called My Mouth. It was called something with silence.
Yeah.
And a Harry Styles song influenced that, and then it changed and had another iteration again. Maybe you can give us some context.
It's not the Harry Styles thing. Is that Harry Styles is an example of a songwriter who has very catchy and not even just catchy, but unusual and out there titles. And so we had this other title, and obviously it's something to do with silence. But the the producers that were producing the song sort of saw the title and they're like, that's cool. It's it's relatively obvious, but could we try something? And they use the example of watermelon sugar. Like watermelon sugar is such a, it's catchy, but it's just so unusual. Like watermelon, what does that even mean? And I bet you don't know what it means because you're old. It's just such an unusual title. It's so out there. Along with being catchy, and obviously it's right there in the song as well, so it helps. It's not like it's some obscure lyric either. It's right there in the chorus, but it's really kind of hits you in the face. Like, oh my god, what does that even mean? And so I guess we kind of apply that, and we're like, call it My Mouth.
So for the longest time, it was referred to as My Mouth, but then it released as My Mouth La La La.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
So shout out to Marty for the suggestion. There were, as we were getting ready to release it properly, like on Spotify and Apple Music and all the rest of the streaming platforms, obviously I'm posting about it on Instagram, posting busking footage, starting to even tease little snippets of the record. And people are really enjoying the song, and they're asking for the song, and they're asking for the La 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 song.
Yes.
Which, of course, because that's such a big, that's such a sort of main hook throughout the song is the La La La. And so the suggestion was made that, okay, so many people are sort of gravitating to this La 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 lyric trope. Maybe we could put that in the title, whether it's My Mouth Goes La La La. I think that was the original session. It might have been like My Mouth Goes La La La. And my thinking was, well, I really like My Mouth as a standalone title. And I think if we expand that to My Mouth Goes La La La, that kind of, I don't know, that kind of changes the energy for me. It changes the art in the title, let's say. But if you make it My Mouth and then in brackets La La La, then all of a sudden it feels more like it's the same song title with like a hashtag at the end.
Yeah.
So it's like a little search, SEO like optimization thing in the song title. So that's how we kind of landed on that.
Awesome. Now I feel like we may have skipped something important, perhaps because there's been quite a bit of coverage of the song, and I know therefore we've spoken about this a fair bit. But I guess we shouldn't assume that the listeners have already heard this. Can you tell us a little bit about what the song is about? Now I know you touched on it slightly, but maybe some of the context around when you wrote it as well.
I was last night at 6:15. I was on a radio interview talking about this. So I'll try and use different language. So I wrote the song when I was halfway through my first year of uni. I guess the context around it is I just come out of high school when I spent a lot of high school like in COVID lockdowns. Go Melbourne. And so I was going from an environment of, okay, I'm just kind of in my room on my own or like on Zoom a lot of the time with, a couple of close friends, to all of a sudden now I'm thrust into this uni environment and I'm meeting all these new people, which is great. But I think it, is kind of a shock to the system. And for whatever reason, the people that I was meeting, I wasn't really clicking with or fitting in with. And so I think that was probably compounded by the fact that I was just, I'd kind of been out of social interacting, generally speaking. So it was a rude shock to start meeting all these people. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm not connecting with them, not fitting in with anyone.
I think for context, a lot of international folks may not know that Melbourne was the most lockdown city during COVID. And during 2 years, pretty much most people were in lockdown.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole other podcast episode about what that was like and writing songs in the pandemic. But yeah, that I guess that just sort of helped explain like why it was such a shock for me. I think then going back into the wild, back into meeting all these people. And for whatever reason, I was just not connecting. I guess everybody's interests were maybe different to mine. Like, I don't drink. I don't really like to go partying. And I mean, I feel like I'm an extrovert, but I want to hang out with my friends and play a board game or like play some, Smash Bros on the Nintendo Switch. Like, I don't want to go out to the club and headbang until 2 a.m. in the morning. So I felt like a bit of an odd, I felt like a bit like the odd one out. And so as a result of that, what started to happen was I would notice as I was, again, just meeting all these new people at uni, was as I'm chatting to people, introducing myself, getting to know people, I would start kind of maybe distorting myself a little bit, maybe throwing a little detail about myself that isn't true, or telling a little lie that's not of any consequence, but just isn't particularly representative of me as I know to be true. Just because I was feeling insecure, and I kind of felt like, okay, maybe I can make myself fit in more if I just, do a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah.
I keep saying words that I don't mean. If I say the right thing, then just maybe I'll be cool enough to sit with her or make some friends, and afterwards, if they like me, I'd like myself.
And then, I got to halfway through the year and I was like, this isn't it. Like, this is not helping. Like, I don't feel great. Even when I do sort of give the appearance like I'm fitting in more, it doesn't make me any happier. It's not real. Like, I am who I am. And so that was kind of the genesis for the song. It's like, okay, ISHAN, like, I'm talking to you. Stop this right now.
It's very obvious that the meaning behind the song has resonated with so many people. At the time when you wrote it, did you know it was a banger?
Oh, sorry. I'm just laughing at you using the word banger. No, not really. I mean, I don't know that I've ever written a song and gone, oh, this is a banger. I think I write a song and go, oh, this feels right. Like, I'm thinking a thing or I'm feeling a thing. I'm going through something's happening in my life. And the best result is, wow, I've written this song and that really kind of captures what's going on. As opposed to a bad result would be, oh, I was feeling X, Y, Z and I've written this song and it doesn't really capture what's going on. But there's never a thought of like, oh, it's a banger.
Got it. Speaking of the song itself and sort of almost breaking it down for a second, is there, and this is the question I ask you with every song in the podcast that we do, is there a part of the song that you think is your favorite part?
Oh, give me a second. This is good. This is one that the interviews so far haven't asked me. That's why you're the best. Do I have a favorite part?
While you're thinking, maybe I jump in.
I'm a sucker for a bridge in general.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go the bridge.
So when you say the bridge, just talk through the lyrics.
Even if it hurts now, I'll try to be strong. And by the way, this is my favorite part of the song. It also sounds the silliest to say out loud when you're not singing. It sounds very melodramatic when you're not singing the lyrics. But even if it hurts now, I'll try to be strong. It'll take a minute till I feel I belong in my own skin where I fit in. It's going to take a while, so I'd better begin.
Even if it hurts now, I'll try to be strong. It'll take a minute till I feel I belong in my own skin where I fit in. It's gonna take a while, so I better begin.
The reason I like that, it's not so much a musical reason as opposed to a lyrical reason. I think that, first of all, it's quite musically consistent across the whole song, which, it does its job really well. But I think I like that moment in the song in particular because, it's often when you write, context being, this song is like 3 minutes, 11 seconds. It's a pop banger. Like it's not like a, 4 minute indie folk, like waxing lyrical about the world. Like there's only so much information I felt like I wanted to put in. Like the song really kind of picks one point and hammers it home. Yep. It's like, oh my God, this is a problem. Fix it. So don't say nothing if you don't mean it. Like that, it's that kind of pop song. But what I like about the bridge is the bridge really nicely introduces a second idea in a setting where, it's a pop banger. So introducing new ideas, it's pretty hard to do with the limited word count. And just this, specifically talking about this sort of racial illusion, fitting in my own skin. I think that part of what was making me feel like I wasn't fitting in this uni environment was the people I was meeting. The people that I was meeting were also just very different. Like I wasn't meeting a whole lot of equally sort of culturally, racially diverse people. It was a very white environment. And that's not consistent across the uni I was in. That's very specific to the part of the uni that I was in and spending my time. And that was just kind of a coincidental thing. You want to jump in?
Yeah, as everyone knows who's listening, I'm your dad. I think I know you pretty well. I've never heard that part of the story, or I've never heard you. I've never made the connection between fitting in my own skin with the racial connotation, which we talk about a fair bit.
Well, it's come up in other
areas.
It came up a lot more when I was in high school.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, it was much more apparent that everybody around me is pretty much everyone around me is white, and that can get uncomfortable. So there are certain groups that make that a little more uncomfortable than it really ought to be, or it shouldn't be uncomfortable at all. So people that make that uncomfortable. with uni, I think it never came up because it was never like anybody was, kind of being horrible or anything. Like, there was none of that at all. I think it was just a subliminal thing in the back of my mind. Is like, oh, it's one more reason I don't fit in. It's like everybody's going out partying and like being super social, and it's all up in the drink, and on top of that, it's like everybody looks a certain way. It was just one more thing. Is like interests, everything like I just felt so the odd one out.
We could definitely do an entire podcast on that topic. I'm gonna move us on. But fascinating, and that's why I also love the process of creating this podcast. I learned something about my own son as we're talking as well. Now, a lot of people fell in love with what they're calling online the acoustic version of My Mouth, La La La.
Yeah.
And when you started to play the record, they were pining for what they'd heard online. How was that experience for you?
It was weird. I mean, look, the overall takeaway, it's fantastic. It's fantastic that people are interested. They want a certain version of the song, whether it's the record or an alternate version. Like, the fact that there's so much interest in my music is fantastic. I guess taking that a step further, it was definitely weird. Like, I guess the reason I found it so strange is because people were asking for the live looping version that they saw online, the one that went viral that we spoke about earlier, which is basically what's going on is it's me playing on Burke Street in Melbourne. I'm looping, like I'm live looping, so I'm playing guitar using my drum machine loop pedal to sort of make this live loop, simulate a band, and then I'm playing the song. And the parts that I'm playing, that I'm looping, are derived from what would ultimately become the record. So the correlation is like the correlation is almost one-to-one. The busking, the parts that I'm playing are the parts that I want to have in the record. So they're kind of one-to-one. So really, besides the looping version being a bit faster, which admittedly that was quite different. I tend to speed up when I play live. So the record is kind of the tempo that I always intended to play the song at when I'm just playing live. The heart starts beating a little bit and I just speed up. But really, most of what's going on, at least in my head, which is obviously very different to how other people see it, and that'll always be the case. But to me, it's like, well, the looping is like, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, on the street, build a very roughshod approximation of the record and play it for you.
Yep.
So when you hear the record and it's like, it's just perfectly done, it's like it's everything that the looping version's trying to be. In my head, it would be like, oh my God, you love the record so much more because it's just a better version. Now, of course, it's not a better version. It's different. It's live. It's faster. People, a lot of people are attracted to that. And so, it's, again, like, overall, it's just fantastic that people are interested. But I guess that's why I had this moment where I was like, what? People want the live version? Like, that's just a poo version of the record that I'm trying to make on the street. So, yeah.
And as a result of that interest, I know that you've now created a live looping video. Obviously, people will listen to this podcast when they do, but as of time of recording, it's actually coming out tonight.
Yes.
So that's exciting as well.
That's very exciting. One of the things I always loved about Ed Sheeran, who's one of my kind of musical heroes, is his he's done a whole bunch of like live looping videos where you can see the camera pans to his pedals and you can see what he's doing. So the fact that I got to make my own in like a nice studio, like just the room is all cozy and cool, like that was really fun.
In a similar vein, a small number of people, and this is not just for you but for many artists, seem to be of the belief that, and let me make it personal to you, that you in this case were holding back the release of the song for the sake of it, to build buzz, draw it out.
I'm evil, that's why.
There are also some that think that there's a record label behind you. Can you clarify whether you actually are an independent artist and what that means for releasing a new track?
Yeah. So hi, ISHAN, industry plant here. Nice to meet you. No, I'm joking. No, not at all. Hang on, what was the first part of the question?
So
sorry.
You have a record label behind you. Are you funded by a record label?
I'm not funded by a record label. I'm independent. I'm fully independent. So I own the masters. I own all the intellectual property. I'm funded by a little bit of busking and a little bit of help from the parents. I don't pay rent. I eat food for free. I don't have a car. I ride the bus. So the margins are thin. The income is low. So yeah, there's no record label. I'm fully independent. The reason that the record didn't come out the moment that video went viral, which is presumably when a lot of people will like give us the record now, it's because making the records takes a lot of time and it's expensive. I'm not a producer. I have to work with other producers. I say have to. It's so fantastic to actually be able to work with these two guys. Or in this case, it was made with M Squared. Two guys who they're the best. They're fantastic. They play all the right parts. They get the best vocal performance out of me. It's fantastic. But it's expensive. It takes time, and I have 130 songs. So I'm always posting a new song on socials. I can write a song on Monday and I can post about it Monday night, which I did the other week. I wrote a song. I thought, this is great. Let me post the first verse and chorus on Instagram. That's super easy, super fast. That is not the same thing as making the record. The making the record is expensive and takes time. Writing the song is cheap, or it's free, and I can post it online in 2 seconds. And so, because I'm always posting all these songs, I'm not expecting to release them. So when My Mouth blew up, I wasn't planning to release it. It wasn't like, oh, this is a release campaign, we're going in, we're going to talk about it and then release it. I was just like, oh yeah, it's one of my 130 songs. It's one of the maybe 25, 30 that I'm really enjoying, so let me post this every now and then. And then it went like absolutely ballistic, much more than anything else I've done before. And so then I was like, okay, all hands on deck, like we need to get this ready. But then of course, it's time and it's money. So that's why, the release date was what it was.
And there's, without boring people, there's a process of mastering, producing, mastering a track. You want to release it with some sort of video.
Yep.
And pretty much...
You have to give it to the streaming platforms recommended is like 3 to 4 weeks ahead of the release as well. So they can have it and they can start thinking about how they want to playlist it.
Got it. Okay. So I said that My Mouth was a bit of an inflection point for you.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the trajectory of your career has accelerated on the back of this song compared to when you launched the Cycle of Codependence EP.
Yeah.
Back then you were building a loyal fan base, taking some big steps, but it was still just you. Now, suddenly, even though you're an independent artist and you said you don't have a record label, which is, of course, I know that, but just to get that out there so that everyone understands that you are independent. That said, you now have a small but amazing team around you.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how that happened and what this has meant for you?
Sure. So... I'm trying to think of how to explain it without using a bunch of names that nobody's going to know.
Maybe just generically.
Generically.
You've got some people that are now helping you. You've got some managers. You've got some folks helping with marketing and other things. Just what has that meant for you?
Yeah. So I've got 2 managers now. Shout out Nick and Jadden. They're fantastic. And they are sort of the centerpiece of the team. And they're great because basically they're 2 guys who, in sort of overlapping ways, are super experienced in the music industry. They've managed or continue to manage a bunch of other big Australian acts, and so above all else, they just bring a wealth of experience and knowledge. Like I'm at the stage I'm at in my career right now. When we started working together. Back in February was kind of
2 months ago, before My Mouth came out, the interest started before the music went viral. So
that was actually really funny. Was that we started talking to Nick in particular. We met for dinner and we started talking, and that was before any My Mouth stuff started popping off. So that, in a lot of ways, that was really nice for me. Like looking back on it now is so nice because he was reaching out and saying, I love what you're doing. I love the Cycle of Codependence EP. I love what you're doing. I want to get involved, before there was any kind of virality. So I look back and think, okay, it wasn't just, oh, the numbers are going up, time to get involved. Like there was genuine belief in the music, which is so important, and something that I'm so grateful for. But yeah, we started talking and then, stuff started happening with My Mouth, which was great. And yeah, so I guess going back to what it means is just having two people who care a lot about my music and have all this wealth of experience. Like they've seen artists at the 10,000 monthly listeners. At now it's 380,000
around
monthly listeners. Yeah. They've seen artists there, and then they've seen artists through to 10 million monthly listeners. I mean, this is the part where I want to drop names, but we'll keep it cool. Sorry, there was nothing cool about that.
But you've got managers, you've got now a booking agent, you've got folks helping on distribution. You're still independent, and people will confuse that because they'll think that suddenly.
Well, it's confusing. I get that as well. I mean, like, there's still a whole bunch of things that I don't understand about the music industry.
But I mean,
I'm very much in it.
The independence, you don't have a record label, you still fund everything, right? But you've now got a team of folks who are on the same side and focus on helping you be the best artist you can. Yeah. I'm going to sound like a psychologist with a sofa, but how does that make you feel?
First of all, you always sound like a psychologist. Look, it makes me feel really good. I think that it's really exciting to be part of a team. There's always an element of it's my career and my songs, and kind of like it that way. Like, I liked it that they're my songs and I'm telling my story. So there's an element of like, no, it is my thing, and I love that. Like, I'm making these songs in part for myself, and I'm working, like as hard as I'm working for myself, because I want certain things in life. But then there's another element of, well, even though I don't have to, even though I'm still doing my own thing, I've got all these other people kind of orbiting me and helping out and just getting involved in ways that's super positive, and so that feels fantastic. It's such a nice change now that maybe 3 times a week touching base with the people in this team, like whether we're jumping on Google Meet calls, we don't use Zoom, or just constantly in the WhatsApp chat, just chatting to people, and just bouncing ideas, like the idea to do the My Mouth live version in a studio. That wasn't my idea. That was again Marty who had the idea to change the name of the song with the la la la, who's brilliant. Just said, hey, why don't we do a live version? Actually, was that Marty or was that Nick? I don't even know. There's constant, people are just throwing suggestions out, and it's just this sort of creative cloud around the music. So I'm still writing the songs, I'm still doing my thing, but then all of a sudden people are going, well, what about, this is like a music video idea, and this is like, you could do this live version, you could do it here, or like you could take these photos and it could be like that. And it's like, this is all stuff that, like, I don't really understand, like, how to make a good music video, or like what visual stuff needs to go around it. I know how to make the songs, and I know how to make the music, and that's like very in here. But so then to have all these people kind of floating around the music and contributing all these ideas, is really nice.
Awesome. 2 more questions for you. So one of the implications of the success of My Mouth La 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 is that you've started to become a bit more identifiable. Now, context, while you're certainly not a celebrity, and I'm not trying to overstate that.
Sound like my little cousins.
Yes. You occasionally do get recognized, occasionally.
Very, very, very occasionally.
Yeah. You now have a number of people who DM you on a daily basis, different people, right? Mm-hmm. You even have your very own troll who will come onto every Instagram post and bag you out.
Like I have more than one troll.
What has all this increased visibility felt like? And how are you thinking about the realities of what might happen if your music becomes even more well-known?
I mean, so to the first part of the question, I don't know that there's a lot necessarily to do. I mean, I'm trying to think about how to answer this question without getting too much into mindfulness, and like, I mean, the metaphor of like, watching cars pass on the road. I use the Headspace app. That's the only reason I'm a functioning human being. Is very apt. I think, there's chaotic stuff that happens. I mean, there's chaotic stuff that happens for everybody in life, but increasingly for me, like in this case, there's increasing attention, scrutiny, people calling me all sorts of things online. And actually, we should contextualize that by saying that given the size of my like online profile, I have a very small number of trolls. So relatively speaking, and touch wood, I've been very lucky so far that I've had to deal with very, very little of that. But yeah, I think, you know, as the audience gets bigger, there's more attention, there's more scrutiny. I don't think there's necessarily anything for me to do. I think it's just more about continuing to check in with myself and say, okay, like, I'm doing my job, I'm doing my thing, and it's pretty loud outside, but hey, I'm still doing my job. I'm still doing my thing. I think that's all there is to it. And it sounds very simple. It's very difficult some days. But yeah, I don't think that I would be. So then to the second point about you know, preparing for the potential future where there's even more of this, I don't think that anything necessarily ramps up as, you know, potentially, we hope it goes from, say, you know, hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners to millions and millions. I think it's just more of the same. Is more just, okay, it's pretty loud outside, but like, just keep it calm, like we're doing your thing.
So one of the things that your mum and I worry about a fair bit, but now we are feeling a bit more comfortable with this, is as you become more identifiable, more and more people know your music. You know, every now and then, if you're busking in Burke Street, people will come and ask you to sign, you know, your name. People will stop you, increasingly, and say, I've listened to your music and I recognize you from your social media and I love your music. We, as parents, worry that not specifically you, but anyone can lose themselves in that. It's wonderful for the ego in the short term, but of course it's not. It doesn't change the person you are. And of course, we are, as we're starting to see this happen a little bit, seeing how you respond and react to it, and the fact that it's part of the job, but it doesn't define who you are, gives us great comfort that if it does ramp up even further, you're going to be okay. But it's something that as parents, we keep a watch on.
And it's not trivial either. Like, I mean, you know, I feel like I'm predisposed to be a relatively humble guy, which is good. It certainly helps. But
there's irony in saying that, by the way.
I know. Actually, that.
And pick me and trust me to be able to point that out on a podcast where lots of people are going to be listening to that as well.
I'm gonna cry myself to sleep tonight. Okay. It's on my mind. I mean, like I've definitely had you know, like you talk about, like, you know, moments where, you know, finish busking, there's 100 people standing around clapping, and then people start coming up and taking photos. I've definitely, you know, a couple times caught myself feeling, you know, a little too happy about it, and just like, I'm there taking photos of people, feeling all special, and I'll be like, you know, smack myself like, no, this is not, because it's not about me. It's like, I mean, first of all, I'm not anything special. I'm doing a job, and I'm very fortunate. I mean, hopefully, if I get to continue doing this, if it works out, I'm very fortunate that my job is maybe more fun than the average job. I get to do the thing that I'm very passionate about, but it's still a job. So I'm there to do a job. I'm working. I'm serving people. Like, obviously, I'm writing for myself, but there's an element of I'm serving an audience, and I'm not entitled to their praise or their affection or whatever. Like, I'm working for myself, working for them. I'm working. I've got a job to do. And so when people are praising me and telling me I'm doing a great job, then it's not... I think we just... Mic blipped. Okay, we're good. It's not that... And this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but the way that I'm trying to think about it, because I think this is the truth, it's not about me. It's not they're telling me I'm great. I mean, they think they are. But the truth is, it's not that I'm great. It's just that I'm doing my job well, and the songs are great. And the songs are mine, and so I know that logically it sounds like it should be that I'm great, but I just don't think that's right. I think there's a degree of separation, in the same way that when people tell me that, if and when people tell me that I'm horrible and my songs are rubbish, it's not that telling me I'm rubbish, it's that they don't like the job that I've done. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but there exists this degree of separation that I don't think I'm creating it. I genuinely think it's there. I just don't think it's about me to the fullest degree. There's something else that's going on, and we'll have to revisit this in future episodes, because I haven't quite figured out how to talk about it yet. This is a very formative idea that you're getting here. Maybe in 30 years' time, I'll be talking about this more seriously, talking to younger people about it. But I guess that's where I'm like, okay, it's not trivial, this thing of like, getting a big head. Like, it's real, and like I felt it, and I've been like, whoa, that was a moment where I was like really feeling super special about how this person just was desperate to come and take a photo of me. And it's like, no, it's fantastic they want to take a photo of me, and I'm so grateful they like my music, but there's something going on. But I tell you what's not going on. It's not them affirming that I'm fantastic. That's not it. It's not about me in that way. And so I apologize for this rant, and I haven't this isn't a fully formed idea, but there's something I feel that it's not quite about me in the way that it appears.
So it sounds to me like a healthy degree of separation from who you are as a person and what you do. And a lot of people can't make the separation, even in regular jobs. I mean, singing is not a regular job, but even in the irregular workplaces, very often people can't separate the job they do, whether it's received well or not well, versus the person they are. It sounds like you've been able to make that very quickly. ISHAN, I'm conscious of time. I don't want to keep you too long.
I'm a very busy man.
Given that I know what you're going to be doing next, which is probably...
My room is like over there. I'm going to go have a sleep.
Yeah, exactly. So last question. What are you currently working on? What's coming up next for you?
I'm currently working on a better title for this podcast. No. I am... So, like I said, I just finished 3 weeks in the studio. So I've just wrapped up production on an undefined number of songs. And so I guess, there's always, after being in the studio, there's always a process of another, few weeks of making final tweaks, going back and forth online, doing a lot of critical listening, through different, headphones, car speakers, whatever, showing some friends, getting some feedback. So I'm working on new tracks, basically. And then I guess it's just more of the normal, which is the normal is never normal. There's never a normal anymore. But, kind of just... I've got a gig coming up on the 11th of May at the Workers Club in Melbourne. So my next headline show is on the 11th of May. I'll be busking before then. I'll be busking after then. I'll be playing live a whole lot in the weeks and months that follow. And, I sort of make this joke more and more every month of like, I don't even know what I'm doing next week. Like, we talk about this team, like someone's going to tell me that I'm doing a thing next week, and then it's be great. I'm going to have a great time. But honestly, like, whereas I think back when we did the cycle of codependence, it was much more like, yeah, I know where I'll be 5 weeks from now on Tuesday. Yeah. Now it's like, I don't know. And
just to put that in context, I mean, you no one's actually telling you have to be somewhere. They're giving you options.
No. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I guess the beauty is that folks are now providing you with optionality, and you get to choose certain paths. And of course, as things go on, hopefully you get even more and more options. Right now, you're still very early and you're still developing. So it's not as if you have heaps of things. But there's more than it's just you generating a busking set.
Yeah. That was good context. No one's forced me to do anything, and it's not like I'm not running around like a CEO of a big tech firm, but whereas it used to be like everything I'm doing is literally I've created this opportunity for myself. I'm going busking. I'm gonna take the train and I'm gonna get there. It's like now people are suggesting, oh, you could, we'd love you to come and play this thing, and my attitude has always been, and I'm it is now, and I assume will continue to be in the future, like, I want to play. I want to write. I want to sing. I want to play. I don't want to sit in bed and play. I mean, even though I just made a joke about going to sleep, I'm not actually going to do that. I want to be busy. I want to be doing stuff. So the fact that now, on top of all the things that I can do by myself, like busk and write songs, people are saying, oh, you could also do this thing. It's like, man, I'm ready. So that's more what I meant. So nice and busy.
Awesome. ISHAN, well, thank you as always for providing insight, not just about this time, My Mouth, La La La, the song, but also a little bit around what's been happening in your career as this song marks that inflection point we spoke about. Wishing you all the best for the headline gig coming up in a couple of weeks, new music being released in the future, and continuing to move on your career.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we will see you all back here for episode 14 sometime soon.